My best friend was my dream guy, but I was just his therapist. Every love story has its breaking point. Mine began in Liam's car at 2 in the morning, on one of those rare summer nights when the air was warm, and the stars mocked me with their indifference. Liam gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white as he stared at the empty road ahead. "Do you think I'm broken?" he asked suddenly, his voice low and raw, like he was afraid of the answer. It took everything in me not to reach over and touch his hand. I settled for a sigh, one I hoped sounded comforting and not like the ache it truly was. "You're not broken," I said softly. "You're just healing. That takes time." He nodded, but the tension in his shoulders didn't ease. "I don't know if I'll ever feel normal again, Ava." "You will," I promised, though the words tasted bitter. Because while Liam poured his heart out to me, while he leaned on me in his most vulnerable moments, I knew he'd never see me as anything more than his unofficial therapist. I didn't choose to be the one he confided in. It just happened. Maybe it was because I was always there, steady and reliable, or because I had this annoying habit of listening without judgment. Whatever the reason, Liam had claimed me as his emotional anchor long before I realized I wanted to be something else. "I don't know how you put up with me," he said one day, sprawled across my couch with a beer in hand. "Because I'm a saint," I joked, though my heart thudded painfully at how natural this felt. Him here, in my space, filling it with his warmth and energy. "You are," he said seriously, his blue eyes locking onto mine. "I don't think I'd still be standing if it weren't for you." "Don't be so dramatic," I teased, trying to lighten the moment. But the intensity in his gaze didn't waver. "I mean it, Ava. You're everything good in my life right now." God, how I wished he could see what those words did to me. How they twisted the knife already buried in my chest. The problem with being Liam's confidant was that I knew everything about him. I knew his deepest fears, his darkest thoughts, and most painfully, his type. He liked women who were soft and feminine, the kind who wore floral dresses and smiled shyly at his jokes. Women who weren't me. "So, there's this girl," he said one evening, leaning against my kitchen counter as I stirred a pot of pasta. My stomach clenched. "Oh. She's beautiful. Like, stop you in your tracks beautiful." He smiled, a dreamy look crossing his face. "I met her at a coffee shop last week. We've been texting a bit." "That's great," I said, my voice unnaturally high. "You'd like her," he continued, oblivious to my discomfort. "She's sweet and funny, and she has this way of making you feel like you're the only person in the room." I forced a smile, ignoring the way my chest tightened. "Sounds like she's perfect for you." He grinned, his happiness cutting me to pieces. "Yeah. I think she might be." Later that night, after Liam had gone home, I sat on my bed and stared at my reflection in the mirror. My dark jeans and oversized sweater weren't exactly the stuff of romantic fantasies. But it wasn't just about my appearance. Liam didn't see me that way because I'd made myself too safe. Too much like a therapist, always listening, always supporting. Somewhere along the way, I'd buried my feelings beneath the guise of friendship, hoping he'd notice me anyway. But he hadn't. And he wouldn't. The breaking point came on a rainy Friday night. Liam showed up at my door, soaked to the bone, his eyes red-rimmed. "She dumped me," he said hoarsely, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I led him to the couch, grabbing a blanket and a mug of tea while he sat silently, his head in his hands. "What happened?" I asked gently. "She said I wasn't ready for a relationship," he muttered. "That I'm too closed off. Too damaged." "You're not damaged," I said firmly, sitting beside him. He looked at me, his expression desperate. "Then why does it feel like I am? Why can't I just get my shit together?" I placed a hand on his arm, my touch hesitant but sincere. "You're not supposed to have it all figured out. Life doesn't work that way." "But I keep screwing everything up," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm so tired of feeling like this, Ava. Like I'm never enough." You are enough, I whispered, my throat tight. You've always been enough. Something shifted in his gaze then, his eyes searching mine as if he was seeing me for the first time. Ava, he began, his voice barely audible. I shook my head, tears welling up. Don't say anything you don't mean. But I do mean it, he said, his hand covering mine. I've been so blind, haven't I? Yes, I said, a bitter laugh escaping me. You have. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my cheek. Then let me fix it. I froze as his lips brushed mine, tentative at first, then deepening as I responded. Years of longing spilled into that kiss, a tangle of passion and frustration that left us both breathless. When we finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine, his hands still cradling my face. I'm sorry, he murmured. For taking so long to see what's been right in front of me. I laughed softly, my tears mixing with his. You're an idiot, Liam. I know, he said, his voice filled with equal parts regret and hope. But I'm your idiot. If you'll have me. And just like that, the therapist in me faded away, leaving only the woman who had loved him all along.